Hello, this is Dr. Brian McDonough. Welcome to Coronavirus Today, Doctor in the Pandemic. As you know, I'm not doing as many of these as I used to, and that's a good thing. But I do want to talk a little bit about the Hopkins numbers and where we are right now. We are sitting here right now in the world. We certainly are over 6 million deaths, heading to that 7 million mark. In the United States, we have 1,043,838 deaths. The thing that I keep looking at is the 28-day number. That's at 13,457. So you're talking about in the United States still, despite the fact people are acting as if this pandemic is over, we're still between 400 and 500 deaths every single month due to COVID. And that is a significant number. Obviously, that's something that we would worry about, and we want to do what we can to deal with. What am I concerned about right now? My biggest concern actually is the psychological well being and the feelings that people have about getting out and doing things and starting to return to life. It's really important. I mean, this has been years now that we have changed our habits to one degree or another. There are still people living in fear, there are still people concerned. Again, that's a protective mechanism. It's not bad, but we have to do what we can to increase things. So, on a personal level, when I felt there was an obligation to do a daily report to try to inform people, I did. But we're at a point now where there's so much knowledge out there and people really understand things, there is not this need to keep coming back with more information. In fact, it's not healthy for people to hear it all the time. It's certainly not healthy for me to obsess on it all the time. So why am I doing it today? Well, first, to bring up the point, we're not out of this. The measures that are out there are still important. If you want to, you should be wearing a mask, especially when you're watching the numbers, especially when you're indoors. Masks provide great protection. No one should be able to tell you not to wear them. But in other instances, you may feel comfortable not wearing a mask because if you have been immunized and if you are taking advantage of the medications that are out there, for instance, if you turn positive, you can actually protect yourself. Where are we with the vaccines? Right now, for the people who are in the senior citizen slash high risk categories, you could have as many as 4 vaccines, the initial 2 followed by 2 boosters. And studies are showing that if you are high risk, clearly there are benefits to having those 4 doses. If you haven't gotten them, you should move toward that. As far as the Paxlovid, which is the medication we're using the most, studies again are showing that Paxlovid works very well in the high risk groups in particular. So if you're high risk, you test positive for COVID, you take all the measures to protect others, protect yourself, but consider the Paxlovid as an option. Paxlovid has had this thing called the Paxlovid rebound. You might have seen where President Biden contracted COVID, he got COVID, he was given Paxlovid, he tested negative, and then a little later he tested positive. When he tested positive again, the symptoms were minor. The Paxlovid, sometimes for whatever reason, and we're learning and figuring it out, actually has this rebound in certain individuals. In other words, it protects them, but at the same time, it might prolong the fact that a person tests positive. So these are all the facts that are out there that are swirling around. What are we learning on the worldwide level and on the national level? On the national level, it's very interesting. For the first time, they've done a study about people who are vaccinated and who aren't, and it does follow political lines. Now, this does not mean if you are a Republican, you're not going to get vaccinated. If you're a Democrat, you will. There are no absolutes, but they are seeing a pattern. And what that tells us is people's political views, if you wish to call it misinformation, whatever, views that are out there, those views can impact the way people think. What we need to do, according to the researchers, and I support this, is try to get faith back into the world of science. Science took a hit, largely because of the way things were presented initially. As you may remember, there were absolutes that were said. In science, especially in healthcare, there are no absolutes. You follow the experience, the knowledge, and you use that knowledge to make decisions. That's why there are certain absolutes. For instance, don't smoke. Alcohol can hurt you. High-fat diets will have a negative effect. Those kind of things we have seen over time. But when you are talking about a virus or a bacteria or things that can change, there are no absolutes because things change. But we needed to have presented that at the beginning. One of the things I did in my reports was to say, hey, make sure you are aware that you keep up with things because we're going to learn as we go. I think, if anything, hopefully, as a country and as a world, we learned, let's not try to have all the answers, the quick hit. Let's try to figure out what's going on as we move forward. So, to wrap this up, again, no need to keep having these talks, but when it's important, I will. Right now, if you're not vaccinated, you should be. It's been proven to be safe, and you can get it pretty much in all age groups now, and it is available. Secondly, if you're in the high risk groups, make sure obviously that you continue testing across the board. But if you're in those high risk groups and you test positive, what you should do is consider the Paxlovid, talk with your healthcare provider. And finally, the big thing, try to move forward in a safe way and try to engage other people, to try to experience life and get out of essentially the negativity that we've had from isolation. It's hard, harder for some than others, but we need to go in that direction. Otherwise, take care as we head into Labor Day. We're through another summer. We're going to watch things, but boy, we are in such a better place than we were just a year and definitely 2 years ago.